Today I want to answer the question, is it okay to approach someone when you're out and talk to them? A lot of guys tell me that they're really unsure of what to do, especially the post Me Too era. Is it okay to go out and talk to a woman when they're out, or is it not? Now I want to answer a whole resounding hell yes. In fact, women would love you to go up and talk to them, but it all comes down to the way that you go about doing it. Now I find that sometimes when guys are uncomfortable, they start to act really weird. And it's the weird way that they act when they're outside of their comfort zone that puts women off. In fact, it not only puts the woman off, it makes her feel equally as uncomfortable. She picks up on how uncomfortable she is, and it's almost like she's got to make it feel better for him, which doesn't create attraction. Now, I would say that it's really important to be confident, but I'm sure you've heard how important confidence is. But in my coaching, I found that even in my podcast, people might listen and go, yes, I'm doing what Deb said, yet their way of being confident isn't exactly what I'm meaning when I'm telling them to be confident. You know, some people can be so confident, overconfident, that they don't read the signs. They could be a bit like a bull in a china shop. They go overconfident and just wreck the whole situation. So when we're talking confidence, we're not talking like I say, some guys can be so used to being rejected that they'll go up being confident. They're probably still expecting to be rejected. And the way that they come across is, like I mentioned before, weird. When I mention confidence, I want to say, if you imagined someone like James Bond, James Bond is quietly confident. He doesn't imagine that the girl's not going to be interested in him. Quite frankly, he doesn't care. He has enough skills in that space to know what he needs to do and to know how he needs to act. And that is exactly what he does. Now that is what I mean by confidence. Not going in and not caring. So as I said, I coach men and women, and when I've coached guys, they may tell me what they're doing, and then I've gone out in the field with them and seen them in reality, or maybe I've seen them at one of my events. And what they're actually doing and what they think they're doing are two different things. And that's some of the value when it comes to coaching, okay? So, how do you go about doing it? Now, I want to tell you a little bit of a story to illustrate the point. Last week, I decided that I would go and work from a cafe and, use their Wi-Fi and work there rather than working from home. Because, sometimes when you get a writer's block and you're at home, the temptation is to go, let me binge watch just one episode of Netflix, and I might get carried away with a couple, not getting any work done because there's too many things to distract me. So off I went to this cafe and, I did a little bit of work, but there were other people working at this shared table that I was at. And, I kind of struck up a conversation with a girl slightly opposite to me and kind of go, what brings you here? And then she asked me. So we got into this conversation, which was pretty valuable. I didn't get my work done, but I didn't give myself a hard time because I had a great conversation. The girl was in her 20s, okay? And, she goes, the other week I had this guy approach me. And I'm like, how was that? And she goes, I really didn't enjoy it. And I'm like, you know how hard it is for guys to approach women? And she goes, yeah, I know that, but I still didn't enjoy it. Now, I could have left the conversation there, but I decided that I would ask her some more questions. And I'm like, okay, can you tell me what he did? And when she told me the story, instantly I knew why she didn't like him approaching her and why she felt uncomfortable. It all was in the way he approached her. And, she was telling me that she wants to be approached for who she is, not how she looks. The whole, that she's a pretty girl and he wants to talk to her. She'd much prefer someone to talk to her because they value who she is or something about her, rather than being so focused on the agenda of the conversation. She even said that she'd much prefer to approach the guy, but she goes, who am I kidding? I'd never do that. But it's all in, she goes, yeah, I wouldn't mind someone talking if it was about me and not that they had agenda behind it. So how this guy approached the girl, I'll describe it to you. He walked up to her and he goes, I know women are uncomfortable talking to guys, and I'm going to make sure that I stand an appropriate distance from you. And made a real big deal about, I know safety is important. So look, I'm standing back here. Are you sure you feel okay? And he, went on and on about this, and then told her he was a teacher. And she gave him the time of day with the conversation, had it, but he kind of was still kept this weird distance and was behaving really weirdly around a conversation with her. But in her mind, she said, well, he must be responsible because he's a teacher. And then he got something out to sniff, which made her feel more uncomfortable. Anyway, generally, she had to rush off and go meet someone else. And she goes, look, it's been great talking to you. I've got to go. I've got an appointment. And he goes, yeah. You could have just told me that you didn't want to talk to me anymore. I get it. Something along the lines of that, right? And the whole interaction just left her feeling blur. And I understand why. That whole focus on being safe would make you feel unsafe. He kind of put a big deal on that conversation rather than it just being normal and natural. No one wants that feeling. Like she said, I wouldn't mind him talking to me, but I want him to talk to me for me, not because he wants to pick up, not because he wants to score. So what I usually say is get rid of the agenda to achieve your outcome, right? He could have gone up to her and said, hey, great sneakers, they're really cool, and struck up a normal conversation like you would with someone, but he didn't. And because of the weird way he behaved, she wouldn't have given him the number. She wouldn't be interested in catching up with him again. So as much as he might have walked away and congratulated himself for being confident, for having that conversation, it missed the mark. Yes, she didn't reject him and she had a conversation, but that was it. So how should you do this to get results? Now, I want to kind of tell another story to illustrate what you can do. As a business owner, I often go and do business networking. Now, there's lots of different networkers out there, and there's some networking that works and some networking that doesn't. When you go in with an agenda, it doesn't work. Even, I don't know if you've got LinkedIn or Facebook messages where people go, hey, nice to connect. Hope you get value out of what I do. Let me tell you, can you tell me about your life goals? And I'm thinking in my head, fuck no, I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about you. Why am I going to tell you my life goals straight off the bat with a complete stranger? I haven't got to know you. I don't even know if I like or trust you. So business networking and even talking to someone can be along the same lines. So if I went into a business networking, instead of going in hoping that everyone's going to buy my products, everyone will, want to work with me to get over their divorce or to know how to communicate in a relationship or know how to successfully date in the modern age. I don't. I go in and have conversations with people and I get to know the person. And I'm generally interested in them. And it works both ways. It's like a tennis match where the ball goes back and forth and it's equal getting to know each other conversation. I'm not going in there to see what I can get out of it because that's a real short-sighted game. And when you go talk to people of the opposite sex, I'd say the same thing. It's too easy to get in your head and overthink it and put too much pressure on yourself from that interaction, right? Whereas if you just, when I coach people, I say, look, get out there and practice talking to people. It allows you to get out of your head. And the one thing the girl told me, she goes, I wish, that when people are talking to me, that as much as I want them to be interested in me, I want them to have something interesting to say. No one wants the entire burden of the conversation put on them. It doesn't create any attraction and it doesn't create you wanting to talk to them again. So with anything, having a skill to have a good conversation is a skill. And adjusting how you're communicating to different people at different times also is very effective, right? So if you get used to just talking to people in general without any outcome, without any vested interest, when you do come across a girl that you're interested in and wanting to talk to, it will come much more natural, right? Because it'll be something that you do. I like to compare it a little bit to public speaking. Now, for anyone that knows me well, in my late teens, or know me for a long time, I'd say, rather than know me well, in my late teens and early 20s, I was painfully shy. In fact, I'd always prefer to stay in the background. It was safer. I couldn't say or do the wrong thing. And that's what I would tend to do, okay? Nowadays, I'm not like that. Back then, I couldn't have done any public speaking. I couldn't have run events. I couldn't have coached people. I couldn't have done these videos, right? So it's something that I got out there and practiced and got better at, and now I don't think twice about. Like public speaking, if you've never done it before, the first time you do it can be terrible. It can be terrifying and nerve-wracking, and you can fuck it up, right? But as you do it more and more, do it 100 times. You might still feel the initial nerves, but it won't bother you anymore. That's what learning to have good conversations with people is like. And I've worked before, I've done this for a decade in various industries where I had to go to every school in the state I live in, every mining site in the state I lived in. Literally every day I'd meet a different group of people, and I had to learn how to communicate with them to get the results that I needed. So it is a skill that you can learn, but it's about being yourself and being natural and relax, not overthinking it, not overdoing it, and relaxing. Practice, there's no such thing as practice makes perfect, but practice gives confidence. Practice gives the skills that you need, and it's really possible to do that. And it will get you out of feeling so uncomfortable in those situations, because if nothing changes, nothing changes. And maybe you're expecting love to happen when you least expect it. But if you can't go up and talk to someone, you're not ever going to get past that point. It's something that's essential, right, for your success. So why don't you go out this week and practice conversations? Guys, girls want you to talk to them, but they don't want you to feel so uncomfortable and not know what to say and make them feel uncomfortable. So it's important to have something to say, to also be genuinely interested in them as a person, not on how they look, not if you're going to get on their, not if you're going to get sex, not about the outcome. It's about being genuinely interested in someone else. So get rid of the agenda and you will be surprised at what happens. Anyway, my name is Debbie Rivers. I'm a relationship coach. And if you're struggling in this area, why not reach out and have a free discovery call with me? I would love to help you change the results you're getting. Thanks for taking the time to listen to me, and I hope whatever you do today puts a smile on your face. Thank you.